What is up, guys? This is the third episode of the SportsTalkeyes show. Here with me, I'm Mitch and Tanner. Today, we're going to be talking about the MLB season and the postseason picture. So let's hop right into it. The MLB trade deadline is coming up very soon, July 31st. There are some potential big movers. Starting pitchers, we have Marcus Stroman for the Toronto Blue Jays, Noah Syndergaard from the New York Mets, Madison Bumgarner from the San Francisco Giants, Zach Wheeler from the New York Mets. And for relief pitchers, we have Felipe Vasquez from the Pittsburgh Pirates and Will Smith from the San Francisco Giants. Of these potential big moves, who is likely to be traded?
You want to go ahead?
I'll just take of those people. I think the most likely and the 100% lock for being traded is Marcus Stroman. The Blue Jays have made it known they're shopping him. They have really no reason to keep him. They're a young team. Having him on the roster it's not like you're taking away a run at the playoffs or anything. There are a lot of teams interested because the starting pitching market isn't as deep as it has been in the past. So I think Marcus Stroman is definitely the lock, the most likely to go of those.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. And I think in kind of going down the line there in second place, it would probably be Noah Syndergaard. I've got a report here 15 minutes ago from Joel Sherman of the New York Post. And they've been saying, back and forth that they're definitely trying to move Noah. They're just trying to find the right trade package for him. Obviously, he's one of the best pitchers in the NL East for a few years now. This year, he's had a bit of regression. People have been on his fastball a little bit more, but they're still trying to get something good for him. I think out of all of those that we named, and it's kind of weird to say this, but looking at the standings here, I don't think the Giants, because of that second wild card spot, are looking to move Madison and Bumgarner anymore. They just got off 3-game set or 4-game set, sweeping the Cubs, and they're sitting at 53 and 51, 2.5 games a second wild card spot. So one more. I mean, they're currently in the hunt right now, but one more, decent winning streak here, and they've really got a chance here. So it wouldn't be in their best interest for the Giants to move one of their best starting pitchers.
I completely agree. I mean, a team that was pretty much one of the fire sellers come the All-Star break. They flipped the switch. They have won, and at one point I think it was like won 14 of 16 or something. They have just been winning games. And like you said, with the Dodgers having that big lead in the West, the division's kind of out of the picture. But if they do get that wild card game, who better to give it to than your horse, the guy who's brought you to 3 World Series this decade and won a wild card game in 2016. This guy's pitched in every single bright light there possibly is. I don't think I would prefer any other pitcher if I was the Giants, especially someone who's on my roster already.
Right.
So,
kind of go ahead, Sam.
No, go ahead.
Kind of along a similar train of thought. I know we didn't talk about Felipe Vasquez that much, the Pirates closer, obviously. But I was looking at him. He's only 28. I don't really think they will move him. I mean, the guy's having an incredible year. He's sitting with a 1.87 ERA. He's been around for a little while. He's been with the Pirates since he was 24. But, yeah, I mean, 2-time back-to-back All-Star. Why would they want to really move him? I don't know, unless they think that they could get, something better for him.
Right, that is an interesting one because, as you know, we're talking about how the starting pitching market isn't that deep. Well, the relief pitching market is arguably even smaller. And someone like Felipe Vasquez, like you said, back-to-back All-Star, there are a lot of teams going to be bidding for him. Maybe they feel they could get a very high return. With the way things are going right now, they kind of were in that mix in that, log-jammed NL Central, but kind of in the, they got swept by the Cardinals last week, and last night they lost game 1 to the Mets. So they're really not playing great baseball right now. And if they fall even farther, maybe they do decide to make a move. But it's all about kind of how the teams are playing now, right? Because if I think at the All-Star break, Vasquez would have stayed. I mean, the team was right in the mix for the Central, and then we talk about the Giants. I mean, they were surefire sellers, but it's all about.
Tanner, you mentioned Marcus Stroman, and Mitch, you mentioned Noah Syndergaard to have the potential to being traded. Where do you think if they do get traded, where are they most likely to land?
Marcus Stroman, I think the teams that need starting pitching, teams that made it known that need starting pitching are the Yankees, the Twins, the Astros, all teams really going after starting pitching. The price tag for Stroman is certainly going to be less than that of Syndergaard. So honestly, it might be a situation where Syndergaard moves first, and then if teams lose out on Syndergaard, then they kind of go after Stroman. Because of those three teams I mentioned, all three of them are known to be interested in Syndergaard, and he's the big ticket price. I mean, he's the younger, he's got more years of team control. So I honestly think that whichever one doesn't get Syndergaard is going to kind of switch their focus over to Stroman.
Mitch?
Yeah. Well, hitting one first, then the other. There's one team that we know for certain that Noah Syndergaard's not going to, and that's the New York Yankees. The Wilpons have made it incredibly clear that they will not do anything to help the Yankees give any of their pieces away to help the Yankees. Now, maybe we'll get back more into that in a little bit, but for now, I think Noah Syndergaard is going to go to the Astros for a couple of reasons. The first reason is he's having a bit of a down year. And while I do agree that his price tag might be a little bit more than Marcus Stroman, I think that it's going to be a little bit less than it would be in an otherwise, in the years that he's had prior to this year, because this year's been a bit of a down year. So the price tag for the Astros, it would make sense to, hey, let's just solidify the rotation even more than we already do. I think, in my opinion, they have maybe the second best rotation in baseball, but I think with Syndergaard, they would be the best rotation in baseball. And the other thing that I think makes sense for the Astros is the fact that he's been struggling, and it always seems like they're able to just kind of pull the strings and get a struggling guy at midseason and make it work for them. They did it with Justin Verlander. They did it with Garrett Cole. Verlander wasn't struggling so much, but Cole kind of lost his stuff with the Pirates for a little bit and then found it when he got back on the Astros. They've had relatively limited success with Miley this year, but there's been flashes of mastery with his pitching. And no, I mean, the Astros, obviously, whatever it is, whatever formula it is that they're working, pitching coach, whatever, it seems to work. So that would be where I could see Syndergaard going. In terms of Stroman, and this is one that he's been, just based off of forums and little articles that I've read, I think he's going to the I think one place that they're linking him strongly to is the Yankees. But the big problem with that is that the Jays are asking for a little bit too much. One thing that they're asking for is Gleyber Torres, the Yankee shortstop. And I think as a Yankee fan, and I might be letting my bias, shine here a little bit, I think people need to understand that Gleyber Torres is no longer a prospect. I mean, yeah, he's young. He's 22 years old. But at the end of the day, the guy's been to the All-Star game twice in a row, almost won Rookie of the Year last year, is one of the best shortstops in baseball, both offensively and defensively. And he's just continued, shortstop, second baseman. And that's an untouchable item right there. So that's where I think if the trade does fall through and it doesn't happen, that would be the biggest reason there. Otherwise, though, the Yankees have plenty of good prospects that I think that they could maybe – Brian Cashman could make it work. Davey Garcia is one. Red Thunder and Clint Frazier, the left fielder that's down in AAA. We could even give up maybe one of like Andujar or Urshela. We've got plenty of options. The Yankees have plenty of options in terms of trying to make a trade. But those are my thoughts on those particular pitchers.
Yeah, when you talked about first, where you started at was Syndergaard to the Astros. When you look at Syndergaard and talk about literally a perfect fit. where guy who's there's no question about his stuff. He's got some of the nastiest stuff in the game and always has. Struggling to find it, struggling with his control, and getting hit hard. Astros always seem, like you said, they something in there, something within their organization. They seem to just unlock the ability of whoever they get. And with Garrett Cole, like you mentioned, Garrett Cole, his contract expiring at the end of the year. Syndergaard's trade comes with an extra 2 years of team control. If they do end up losing Garrett Cole, they have kind of another Garrett Cole, right? Another guy with a plus fastball, who's going to use his high velocity as his main strength. But yeah, like you said, Astros are a perfect fit for Syndergaard. As far as Stroman, I think the Yankees. I do like Stroman to go to the Yankees. I do believe that the Blue Jays will lower their asking price once they realize that no team is going to give them anywhere close to a Gleyber Torres caliber player. That is absolutely ridiculous. I do believe they will, and he will be in fact moved. I think the Yankees are a great fit.
Y'all mentioned who needs starting pitching the most. We've also talked about Felipe Vasquez and Will Smith as relief pitchers. So what teams in your mind need relief pitching the most?
Two immediately come to mind. If you want to.
No, go ahead.
One, I really think it's always been a story of them for as long as I can remember. It's the Washington Nationals. They started off the year absolutely horribly. I think they started 19-31, double-digit games out of first place, and then they just flipped the switch. And right now I think they're 50. They're 8 or 9 games above 500. They just seems like they cannot lose. But the one thing they have never had is a good bullpen. They have Sean Doolittle, which is a great closer, great southpaw coming in, but they need to shore up other pieces. It's been a problem every single year, even in the postseason and the regular season. Bullpen has been atrocious. So if they can acquire an arm like Felipe, or they might be more focused on the right side since they do have Doolittle. But if they can acquire some of these big names, I really like where the Nationals are at with their young pieces who are playing better baseball, winning games, and if they shore up that bullpen.
Mitch?
Yeah, I think the other team, and I'm looking at the standings and they just don't seem to be going away, is the Boston Red Sox. That's been the story since the beginning of the year in April. They had their bullpen struggle and historically bad bullpen woes for them throughout the entire year. They've tried everything but the kitchen sink. They tried moving, and they got so desperate at one point a few weeks ago that they've actually moved one of their starters, or I should say former starters, and Nathan Eovaldi as their closer role for the time being. They weren't able to lock up Kimbrel in free agency. He was just asking for too much, and they let Joe Kelly walk, who was an instrumental piece in the championship series and World Series when they beat the Dodgers. And that's if they want to really, and they're starting to heat up now in a lot of different aspects. Believe me, I've been watching the past games, Yankees, Red Sox, and it's been a bit frustrating. And they're not going to be going anywhere. If they really want to get scary again and make some noise in the playoffs or in the postseason, then try to see if they can get one of those two guys.
And another team I like to throw in there, just because of kind of where they're at and where they have been the past couple of years, has been the Dodgers, because they have made 2 straight World Series and lost them both. Not necessarily because of their bullpen, but their bullpen wasn't necessarily great. And they have the best record in baseball and have pretty much shown thus far that they are undoubtedly a top 3 team. Some even put them at number 1. And they have Kenley Jansen, again, one of the most consistent closers in the game. And even the guy you mentioned that left the Red Sox, they got Joe Kelly, a high velocity guy out of the pen. But if they can get, again, just more pieces. Take the Yankees, for example. Rich get richer. You can never have too many bullpen arms when they sign Ottavino. You can never have too many bullpen arms. And if the Dodgers do, in fact, kind of, raise that aspect, number 3 is maybe the charm for them.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's all about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. In a sense, I like to think them in terms of the pitching staff almost as like the opposite Yankees. So you've got the Yankees with the weak and it's starting to really show chink in the armor, incredibly weak starting pitching with the best bullpen in baseball. And then you've got the Dodgers with arguably the best starting rotation in baseball, but a weak, low par bullpen with the exception of Kevin Jansen. So yeah, it's all about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And the Dodgers definitely like to make a splash every once in a while. They did it with Manny Machado last year. So be on the lookout for them to be making a move. You don't really see a lot of talk about them just because of the fact that they've been so good this year. So you figure like they might be perfect in a sense, but they'll definitely, like you said, can always use more ammo.
And they're going to score runs. No matter what team you play, they're going to score runs. They just can't give them up. That's what it is. The lineup is so deep, they will score enough runs to win a game.
So we've talked about a little about Stroman and Syndergaard and maybe a Vasquez trade. So out of those 3, if they do get traded, who will have the biggest impact on their new team?
All right. Well, let's say in a perfect world, the Yankees acquire Marcus Stroman and he becomes, one of the maybe like number 2, number 3. And let's think about how the way that he pitches compared to the Yankees staff and Yankee Stadium. Marcus Stroman has a very good fastball. He likes to get it in on inside. And one thing that he's really good at producing are ground ball outs, specifically soft ground outs to the right side of the field. Marcus Stroman, I think, would be the perfect fit in the Yankees rotation as a number 2, number 3. Fly balls in Yankee Stadium, not a good. If you're a fly ball pitcher in Yankee Stadium, you're going to be like a Sonny Gray. It's just not going to work out for you. It's going to be short term, short lived, and you're not going to have success. But if you're someone that gets a lot of ground balls, like those, speaking of our strengths in the bullpen, like an Adam Ottavino or a Zach Britton, who is one of the best pitchers at getting ground balls, then you're going to be a good pitcher and a successful pitcher in Yankee Stadium. So in my opinion, if the Yankees get Marcus Stroman, we could go toe-to-toe with the Astros. We could go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers and, hopefully holding up that World Series trophy at the end of October, early November.
Yeah, don't disagree with any of that, especially the fly balls in Yankee Stadium are a no-no. But for sake of saying something different, I'm going to go Syndergaard. No matter where if he does in fact go to the Yankees, if he does in fact go to the Twins or the Astros, whoever it is, they're getting the best starting pitcher on the market. And when you're in any of those 3 teams, they're looking to separate themselves. And in the Yankees case, they're looking for that guy because the Yankees aren't, at this point, they're not making a wild card game. But if somehow they do, who do they give the ball to? If they acquire Syndergaard, it's going to be Syndergaard. Same with the Twins, with the Indians kind of catching up on their tail. Syndergaard, a bona fide guy who can be an ace. I mean, he pitched in the 2016 wild card game. He's pitched in the bright lights. He can lead a staff. And when you look at the Twins need that leader. And the Astros have, one of the best 1-2 punches in the game with Verlander and Cole, and you just add Syndergaard into there, and it's just top to bottom staff where you don't want to face any of them.
Right.
So no matter kind of where he goes, he can be that impact guy that really any of those teams really needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all want to add anything else about the trade line and who could be possibly on the move?
I guess one thing that I'm assuming we'll talk about the postseason picture a little bit, so I might just save it for them. So no.
Okay. In fact, that's the next topic we're actually going to cover. I'm just going to go through. We're going to go through each division. I'll name some records, and we can talk about who you think is coming out of that division.
Perfect.
So for the American League East, we have the Yankees at 66 and 37, and then behind them is Tampa Bay Rays, 8.5 games behind, with a record of 59 and 47. And then in third place of the division, we have Boston Red Sox, 58-47, 9 games behind. So obviously there is a little separation between the Yankees and the other two teams. So there might be some other runners, but who do you think is going to come out of the AL East in the end?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
take Yeah. So toughest division in baseball. Those top three teams have been for the better part of the year some of the best teams in baseball. But just looking at recent performance, we've got one team trending upward, one team trending downward, and one team kind of right here right now. So we got, and we'll start from bottom to top. Team trending upward, Boston. Last 10, 7-3. That offense, and I'm reminded of a world during Pearl Harbor, a Japanese general when they bombed Pearl Harbor. They said, he said, "I fear we have awoken a sleeping giant," in reference to the American forces and the great assault that the Americans were about to give to the Japanese. And I'm reminded of that in the sense when Didi Gregorius said, when we got to go play Boston, anytime we want to play them, we got to try to bury them. And stuff like that, when you say stuff like that, I feel like I was telling this, I was actually talking about this with my father the other day, just before the series started. I just said, I don't have a good feeling. Because I remember last year in 2018 when the Yankees were kind of fluctuating between are they good, are they bad after the All-Star break. We went to Boston, 4-game set in August, and they just took us right out of it. They actually beat, not as bad, but they beat us in heartbreaking fashion pretty much every game. This year, they're just kind of sticking it right to us. We had a chance, or I guess we still do. We can get out of there, with the next 2 games winning, and we'll be par for the course, and they won't get any ground. But the way it seems, I feel like the Red Sox are going to make a crazy surge coming out. I'm not saying they'll win it, but I'm saying that they'll be in the wild card spot, that first wild card spot. Chris Sale on the mound. They'll be in the division series against the team that has the best record in baseball in the American League. Then you got the Tampa Bay Rays. They're the team trending downward. Tampa Bay Rays, 3-7 in their last 10. If you actually look back since the All-Star break, they've been playing below 500 baseball. Their pitching staff is decimated. Their hitters, which were, in my opinion, kind of playing out of their minds at the beginning. You had guys like Austin Meadows, who was insane, like literally an MVP candidate for a while. As Avisail Garcia was hitting out of his mind. You even had guys like Tommy Pham coming up and probably
Yandy Diaz and guys like that. Yeah.
Let's not forget Travis d'Arnaud coming.
Oh God, how could we forget?
So they're trending downward. Just because, and we'll get to this later, obviously, but just because of the strong surge from Cleveland or Minnesota, one of those two teams, I don't see the Rays with the playoff spot this year. I just think they're hitting too far down, and then we got the big question mark of the East right now. And it sounds so weird to say that because of the fact that they've had such a fantastic season up to this point, up before these 2 games. Right now, Bronx is in panic because that pitching staff, we don't know what's going on right now. Our pitching staff to start off the year was so hot. All pitchers were firing in all cylinders, and it's come back and right back in our face 2 times fold. The past, I think, 3-4 series, the starting rotation has an ERA of somewhere north of 7. It's like absolutely crazy. So they've got to go ahead, try to see, analyze what's wrong with this team right now. Maybe we got to go ahead and make the move to get the pitcher. But yeah, that's my analysis or ideas about the American League East. They're still my favorite to win it, but the question is, will they have longevity in the playoff?
Yeah. I just hate when you say stuff that I agree with. But when you look at Tampa Bay since the break, it's been ugly. They, like you mentioned, a decimated starting pitching staff, which is no doubt their strong point when they hit you with Snell, Morton, and Glasnow. But Glasnow's hurt now. Snell's getting surgery. You're only left with Morton. Guys are starting to come down to earth, like you said in that lineup. I see them falling out of the playoffs quite fast. And I don't think they have the tools or the ammo to make a trade to kind of help that. So Tampa Bay, I think, is going to fall off, as you said. Boston's lineup, I mean, Mookie Betts, last year's MVP, through the first half of the season was hitting under 300, like he's hitting 260 or whatever. Seems to have woken up now. A 3-home run game yesterday, obviously. The starting pitching even from Boston, which isn't all that to brag about, except for Chris Sale, of course. But he started the season tough. He's starting to figure it out again. David Price, who knows what you're going to get when David Price is on the mound, but they're really, top to bottom, they're starting to figure it out. And when you play games, sorry to bring it up, when you bring games that are 19-3 and 10-5, you don't really need that bullpen as much as you would where they can kind of blow games. But the Yankees, they're the best team top to bottom. The lineup can hit you 1 through 9. The bullpen, from all you need is your starter to go 5, and which they haven't been doing recently, but the bullpen can take 6 through 9 easy. Best team top to bottom. They're probably gonna get a starter and plug him into that rotation, and it'll only help. And I definitely think the Yankees win this. I do think it's going to be comfortably, but the Red Sox are on the rise, and I do see them taking a wild card spot.
Absolutely. As for the AL Central, we have the Minnesota Twins with a 63-40 record. The Cleveland Indians in second place, 2 games behind, with a record of 61-42. In third place with 17 games behind, with the Chicago White Sox have a record of 45-56. So obviously, just hearing the games behind, it's, in my opinion, it's between the Twins and the Indians. But in y'all's opinions, who's coming out of the AL Central?
Yeah, we can talk about it 2 years, 3 years down the line. The White Sox will be a force to reckon with. There's no doubt about that. They've got just an influx of just young talent, from pitchers to outfielders, infield. They got everything, and they're going to be really good in a few years. But for the time being, yeah. So going back to the performance trends, if we want to say the Boston was hot, the Cleveland Indians are scorching. That team is not going anywhere either. And that is my pick for the actual division winner. They've been coming up too strong. They still have plenty of games against Minnesota, and they can also take advantage of the weaker East and just kind of, and they're very good at that, or just beating up on bad teams. They've been doing that for the past 2 years. People seem to forget. It seems so strange because of the fact that last year, yeah, they did win the Central. The Central was really weak, so no one really gave them a fair shot. But the year before, in 2017, they won something, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but they won what? 102 games or something like that.
They definitely went over. They won what, 20 some in a row,
right?
Or whatever it was.
Yeah. And for all intents and purposes, I mean, it's basically the same team. Yeah, the starting pitching, they have Carrasco. Actually, Carrasco's actually battling leukemia. They lost him. They lost Salazar for the rest of the year. But it's funny how they've taken those 2 guys and kind of phased them out and phased them in with what seemingly better younger pitchers in Mike Clevenger and Shane Bieber. These guys are just, they came from virtually nowhere, but they've just been able to keep them right in it. They were kind of off to a really bad start early on in the year, but they just seem to have turned the Jets on, and they've got a lot of talent, so do not count them out. I'll let you take the Twins, Tanner, if you want.
I mean, again, I hate agreeing, but I was actually going to go with the Indians too. For all you said, they have tons of talent, but I think perhaps one of the biggest things is Jose Ramirez. This man is 3 of the past 4 years has hit over 300. Last year at 39 home runs. Has been a cornerstone of that infield, being Lindor and Ramirez, being those 2 guys, the 1-2 punch that can, with Gold Glove defenders and Silver Slugger hitters. But Ramirez this year, I think on the year he's batting .243. Just a terrible down year for him. Past couple series, he's starting to figure it out. I think he's hit home runs in 3 of his last 4 or 4 of his last 5 or something like that. He's starting to hit again, and if he gets going, As you said, we know what team they can be from last year and the year before. But looking at the Twins, again, talk about a lineup that can beat you from top to bottom. This year's Twins became the fastest team to hit 200 home runs in a season in 104 games, I believe, or however many, very low 100s.
103.
103. They mash the ball from top to bottom. And you have got veterans like Nelson Cruz, who obviously one of the best hitters in our game for a long time, but has been in many spots before. He's been in the postseason with the Orioles, with the Rangers, he's been in the World Series with the Rangers. You got the young talent like Eddie Rosario and Max Kepler, and they are a really good team that's only going to get better. The one thing that goes against them is, of course, their starting pitching. If they do make a move, that obviously changes things. But with where things are now, with how quickly the Indians are rising and kind of the Twins are just kind of staying where they are, I do see the Indians overtaking the Twins. But like I said, the Twins lineup is so deep, and they have one of the best farm systems in the MLB. They do have the tools to make a move. And if they do, AL Central is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for the last division, the AL West, we have the Houston Astros in first place with a record of 63-39. Second place, we have the Oakland A's, 58-47 with 8 games behind. In third place, we have the Los Angeles Angels with a record of 54-51 and 12 games behind. Of those 3 teams, who's coming out of the AL West and why?
In my opinion, the only team that's coming out is Houston, and there's 2 reasons: Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. And not only are they going to come out, but come out of the West, but those same reasons are going to be an incredible deep postseason run. Starting pitching, and we could go on all day about that lineup as well. I mean, you've got just absolutely loaded talent with George Springer, who was an MVP candidate for a while just before his injury, but he seems to be coming into form. Jose Altuve, who was injured for a little bit, but he seems to be coming into form. You know what you got with Alex Bregman. You know what you got with Michael Brantley, who was like they couldn't have imagined that he'd be hitting at the level he's on his way to winning a batting title. He's right up there with LeMahieu, I think somewhere around .338 or somewhere around there. But yeah, the Astros are, in my opinion, the team to beat in all of the American League. But yeah,
I'll see your 2 reasons, and I'll raise you to 6 reasons. Not only do those starting pitchers, but like you mentioned, Jose Altuve, George Springer, Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley competing for a batting title. You got Yordan Alvarez, who's hitting home runs like it's nobody's business. I mean, this team is stacked top to bottom. There is no relief anywhere from starting pitching to relief pitching to lineup. They're one of the best teams in the AL, as they have been for the past 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, no one's contending them. They're going to cruise.
I think that's a given. Mitch, you mentioned the Boston Red Sox is kind of your wild card team. Tanner, I don't believe you mentioned who is your wild card team from the American League?
Right now, my 2 teams would be, as I mentioned, I do have the Indians overtaking the Twins. I do think the Twins come in at that 1 spot, and I do actually think the Red Sox come in at the 2nd spot. The Red Sox red hot, and the Indians are red hot, which is why the Twins will fall. But that game could be very interesting because the Twins are at home. The Twins may have the better season, but when one team's handing the ball to Chris Sale, it's hard to go against them. So I have the Twins and the Red Sox.
Yep. And Mitch, you said Red Sox, and who else?
Yep, Red Sox Twins, but I'd have it at Fenway. So the Red Sox.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that matchup would be incredibly intriguing. Chris Sale versus probably Barrios.
Yeah, it had to be Barrios, probably Barrios.
Because Odorizzi's there too. So yeah, no, that would mean, hey, Hey, I'd be a Twins fan all day. I'll be right alongside you guys, rooting at the Pink Palace, screaming like crazy for the Twins to win for that one.
And imagine that if the Twins do win and we get a 5-game series of Yankees Twins. I mean, that one game was the game of the year. That would be incredibly exciting.
Right? Yeah, my heart couldn't take it. Do you think it would be the Yankees though, or the Astros? I would say Astros Twins.
Astros might take the 1 seed. They might.
Yeah, we'll see.
And go ahead.
Yeah, so then it would go the bracket from top to bottom would look.
Let's hear that.
For me, it would look like Astros in the 1 seed, Twins, Red Sox at home, and then we've got Yankees, Indians. So the Yankees would have home field advantage over the Indians in the other side.
Yeah, I just got the same teams. I do have the wildcard game flipped. I do think Minnesota takes the 1, and the game would be at Target Field. And I have the Yankees having the 1 seed. So the winner of Twins, Red Sox will play the Yankees, and then it would be on the bottom side. It would be Indians and Astros.
Absolutely. So switching to the other league, the National League. In the NL East, we have the Atlanta Braves in the first spot with a record of 61-43. And then second place, we have the Washington Nationals, 55-48 with 5.5 games behind. And in third place, we have Philadelphia Phillies with a record of 54-49, 6.5 games behind. Out of those 3 teams or any other teams in the league, in the division, who do you think is coming out of the NL East?
This is your league, Tanner.
So when you look at the NL East all the way, I think this is the division where deadline moves could have the most effect. Because when you look at the division as a whole, none of them have a good bullpen. Not one. And you look at Atlanta, who's in the lead right now. They don't even have great starting pitching. Like their lineup mashes the ball, but they got to score more runs than the other team because the other team is going to score runs. But with that being said, I do still have Atlanta, just because of that lineup. I mean, Acuna, Albies, Freeman. You got the Austin Riley coming in and hitting the ball. Josh Donaldson, Dansby Swanson starting to hit the ball again. And then McCann is coming back from the dead. We mentioned d'Arnaud coming back from the dead. Well, McCann's hitting almost 300 this year. So just because of that lineup, I do see the Braves winning it. And they also have the farm system and the ammo and the tools to make a big move. They're rumored for one of the teams interested in Syndergaard. If they can pull that off, now we have a pretty scary team with bona fide ace in that lineup.
And don't forget about Dallas Keuchel either. I'm not sure if he did bring audio cut out for a little bit.
I didn't, but
Dallas Keuchel is a seasoned vet. He's been there before. He's won World Series. You can count on him in big games. He hasn't quite had his best stuff yet. He's been okay, but obviously he was out of baseball for a little bit. They didn't get him until right before the All-Star break, so it takes a little bit of time to get adjusted, but I feel like he'll be coming in, he'll be pitching his best just before and into the postseason. Sticking on the NL East, though, I do think the Washington Nationals will be there in the wild card spot. Not exactly sure. I'm kind of feeling it out, kind of thinking a little bit harder, but I'm sure the Nationals will be there too in October. Whether it lasts for more than one game remains to be seen, but I'm sure they'll be there.
And as you know, maybe I didn't give the Braves enough credit because I mean, we look at the top 3 starters: Keuchel, Fultonevich, and Tehran. They can hang. They aren't anything like the Astros or any of those top tier, but they can hang. They can definitely keep a team with that lineup. Oh my God. You let up 4 runs with the Braves lineup, you still like your chances of winning game.
Yeah, and perhaps one of the most competitive divisions in baseball, if you're going by the record, the NL Central. In first place, we have the St. Louis Cardinals, 56-47, Chicago Cubs, 55-48, 1 game behind, and the Milwaukee Brewers with a record of 55-50, 2 games behind. And I just want y'all's opinion. Who out of those three is coming out of the NL Central?
Yeah, this is easily, in my opinion, the toughest to call. You got the Cardinals. We talk about all these teams that are red hot. The Cardinals are red hot. The Cubs and the Brewers probably are the best two teams in the division. But with all that being said, I see the Cubs taking it just because they are just more well-rounded than other teams. They have a superstar shortstop, power hitting first baseman. Their superstar third baseman is starting to figure it out again. He's hitting like Cubs fans say he can. He's actually proving it. Wilson Contreras. I mean, they're the deepest. They have decent starting pitching. They have guys who have been there. I mean, Yu Darvish, veteran in the game. Cole Hamels, veteran in the game. I mean, none of these teams really do it to go far. But if I had to choose which team would win, it would be the Cubs. But I do think that the Brewers and the Cardinals can make some noise in the wild card race.
Mitch?
Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that they're a game down, I don't see enough in the Cardinals for them to be division champs. And the Cardinals are very strange because for pretty much all of the 21st century, anytime that you count them out is when they do the most damage. Mm-hmm. This is a team in the 2006 World Series that won something like 84 games and were just heavily underdogs in all the series they played and ended up, beating down the heavily favored Tigers in 5 games, just won it all. In 2011, they were down in their final strike twice in Game 6 of the World Series, and they found a way to rally and get it done. So, yeah, I mean, on one hand, you got, the Cardinals always find a way to get into the playoffs and make some noise. But on the other hand, as Tanner previously mentioned, Cubs, I understand that the record might not be indicative, 55-48. That's not terrible by any means. But I feel like the Cubs are a much better team than that record indicates. I don't know. To be fair, I haven't watched a lot of Cub baseball this year, so I can't. Maybe I'm making some dumb assumptions or inaccurate predictions or assumptions about their team. But in my opinion, they're a much better team than the record indicates. They've been there before. I think the fact that they were, the way that their season ended last year, if they had any heart, they would understand, hey, we can't let something like that happen again. This division is ours to lose. Let's just play like we're capable of and figure it out. And then that last team there, the Milwaukee Brewers, I want to say that they could sneak into a wild card spot, but then I look at their starting rotation and I'm just like, it's not happening. Combined with the regression of some of their players last year, it's basically, and this is Christian Yelich has been it for them this year, and that's the only reason that they've even fluctuated on the cusp of relevance, if I may. But yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, it's for the Brewers. It's Christian Yelich and Josh Hader. That's really why they're even come close to winning games. Right. The starting rotation is a disaster. Their lineups, I mean, on paper, like you said, it looks like a very deep lineup, but guys really aren't having the years we expect, except for Yelich, of course, who's the most consistent in our game, one of the most consistent.
Absolutely. And now for the last division, the NL West, it's pretty lopsided. The Los Angeles Dodgers with a record of 68-37. Second place, San Francisco Giants, 53-51, 14.5 games behind. And then in third place, Arizona Diamondbacks, 52-52 with 15.5 games behind. So obviously the Dodgers are pretty much a guarantee. Is that y'all's opinion?
Oh, yes.
As well?
Oh, yes.
Walking backwards into the finish.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the top 3 teams in each of the division of the National League. Y'all kind of touched on it, but who are your 2 wild card teams from the National League?
I'll let you go first, Tanner.
Okay, number one, I have the Nationals. I just think with how hot they are right now, and it's not even like a sort of a recent high like the Cardinals where they've been playing really well for like a week. The Nationals have turned around a 19-31 start to now be 7 or so games over 500 and contending for a division title. I think they're able to sustain their success. I mean, Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg are a pretty damn good 1-2 punch. The second spot is where it definitely gets interesting because you have teams, as we mentioned, like the Brewers, like the Cardinals, like the Giants on their way up. The team I think takes it is I'm going to go with the Brewers because I think they do make a move at the deadline. Because of the starting pitching market is not as big as it has been in the past. We talked about guys like Stroman and Syndergaard. They're not really in the mix for either of them. So even if they get another reliever, because their bullpen is going to be heavily taxed if they play relevant baseball in September, they're going to be heavily taxed. So any help you can get will help. But I think on the shoulders of Christian Yelich and Josh Hader, the Brewers take the 2 spot, and they play a 1-game playoff in DC.
Yep. My wild card game would also be played in DC, but the opposing team would be the St. Louis Cardinals. Take us back to the early 2010s in which the Adam Wainwright and Chris Carpenter-led Cardinals were taking on a young Bryce. So that would be my prediction. I know I said that, and it kind of goes against what I said. I know that, well, not really. The Cardinals won't win the division, but I do think they have enough pieces in there to hang in for a while and at the very least, snag a playoff spot in that second wild card spot.
Especially if their best hitter, Paul Goldschmidt, continues to hit. I mean,
so we did this for the AL, talking about the playoff seedings. So what are y'all's seedings for the National League?
Yeah. So obviously, I said my wildcard game would be the Nationals and the Brewers. Winner of that would play the Dodgers, who would take the 1 seed in the National League. The bottom half, I have the 2 seed being the Braves, and then the lowest of the division winners being the Cubs.
Yep, pretty much the same thing that I have. So Dodgers at the top, and then the wild card would be at Nationals Park, Nationals, Cardinals. Then, yep, same exact thing. Braves, Cubs. So pretty much the same exact thing. One team.
Yeah.
Which is to call. It really is. I mean, it could be anyone. We don't even talk about Philadelphia, and they're only 1 game out of the wild card.
Right. I mean,
in it too, or like we were just talking about San Fran. They're 2 games, 2.5. There's there's a lot. It's weird.
Like I think right now the Mets, who I believe hold the second or third worst record in the National League, are 6.5, 7 games out of the wild card.
Yep.
Which is not probable but not impossible. We've seen it happen before.
Absolutely. Switching topics, we're going to talk about end of year rewards and who y'all think will be winning the awards. First, we're going to talk about the AL MVP. So I just want to get y'all's opinion on who you think the AL MVP is going to be and why.
Mitch?
I'll let you take this one first.
Okay. I think the AL MVP is hands down the most valuable player to any team. It doesn't matter what team he's on. It's Mike Trout. I mean, he has been on another level this year. It always seems like we say that with Mike Trout, but it's this year he's even showing it even more. He's doing everything for this Angels team, who they suffered a sudden death within their team, and they're still, winning. I think they're two games above 500 right now. Like could make a push to the wild card, although it's not likely. But he's got 33 bombs, 86, I believe, RBIs. I mean, he's just incredible with very low protection in that lineup. There's no way around Mike Trout. He beats you in every single way. So I think it's Mike Trout.
Mitch?
Yep, and as a 5-tool player, the funny thing is, and kind of making the comparison, I know we've talked about this before with LeBron James, in the sense that if it was anyone else having that crazy of a season, it would just be like, or it would be this crazy thing like, oh, wow, this player's having an incredible year. If anyone else was putting up the numbers that Mike Trout's putting up right now, it would be insane. They would absolutely be the front runner, and it wouldn't even be close. But the simple fact of the matter is, we as baseball fans have been so spoiled by the consistent production that this guy's just like pumps out every year that we just think, oh, it's another year for Mike Trout.
Year. Yeah.
But once you actually look, it's in a similar way with LeBron James. The amount of production that the amount of value that he provides for his team, and the amount of production that he gets or that he gives to his team, it almost becomes like you just kind of put it in the back, and that's just the way that he does things. But yes, I do agree that Mike Trout should be and will be the American League MVP, and I think he's especially into September once the expanded rosters come and all those young, he'll take advantage of some of the younger pitching, the unseasoned rookies, or not, I guess not rookies, but the triple A'ers. Mm-hmm. He'll definitely give his numbers the boost to carry him, because he has nothing else to really play for aside from having a nice August, September.
Yeah, and just to throw out some more numbers to back up our claim here. Like I said, 33 bombs, 83 RBIs, but 81 runs scored. That's 164 runs he's responsible for. 442 on base percentage, which is 143 higher than his batting average. So he is getting on base in multiple ways, via the walk, which, I mean, why wouldn't you walk Mike Trout when there's really no one else in that lineup who can hurt you like he can? So it's just how day in and day out how good he is at baseball continues to amaze me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mike Trout, I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but you can't deny the fact that he's just killing it this season like he has been in the past, but he's just putting up great numbers, as y'all mentioned. Now the AL Cy Young Award, who y'all think's going to take that and why?
You want to take this one?
My vote, and I actually don't have the numbers on my head, but off the top of my head, but just based upon things that I've heard, I want to say Justin Verlander.
His numbers, I actually have them up. 22 games started, 144 innings pitched, 46 earned runs, 183 Ks, 13-4 record, and 2.86 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, just looking down the list here, it's so crazy. The two front runners are on the same team, Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. I think it'll be Verlander. The guy's just a force to be reckoned with. Every year they say, well, this is the year that he's finally going to start hitting, he's already hit the peak, and this is the year that he's going to, and every year it seems like he ages like a fine wine. He just gets better and better. And we've been saying the same thing about him since 2012, really, or 2013. And he just continues to show that he's an old school type of pitcher. So the thing is, most people, they either throw hard or they have great control. And young players especially, it's funny because they just throw really hard, try to throw the ball through the brick wall, but they don't exactly know where it's going. And then as you get older and you kind of start losing some of your better stuff, you begin to realize, hey, I don't need to throw 99 every single time. I can just pinpoint the corners. And then that's when you start getting guys like Pedro Martinez, a guy like Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander literally found a way to reinvent himself after 2011, because he did struggle for a little bit after he won the MVP, won the Cy Young and the MVP, which was crazy. But after he did struggle for a little bit, but he kind of had just kind of within himself, he realized, hey, I kind of just need to change the way that I need to pitch. I'm not throwing the way I used to anymore in terms of speed and velocity, so let me just get to the breaking ball. Let me just learn how to hit the corners a little bit better. And it's paid dividends. He's a World Series champion. He's, been a cornerstone of He was a cornerstone of the Tigers franchise. He's now a cornerstone of the Houston franchise, and he's hungry for another championship. So my vote would go to Justin.
Yeah, when it comes to Cy Young, definitely not as clear-cut as MVP is. I'm actually going to go with someone that actually we didn't really mention, but I'm going to go with Charlie Morton. Right now, he's sitting at a 12-3 record, a 2.6 ERA, 131.1 innings pitched, 1.043 WHIP. When you kind of look at how the Rays are built with that incredible starting pitching and Snell kind of taking, obviously you can't expect him to recreate the season he had last year, but he kind of he did take a a little bit of a step back, and Charlie Morton was kind of plugged into that rotation and he excelled. Like I said, 12-3, 2.6 ERA. He's pitching great baseball for a team that really needs it if they're going to win. I would have no problem if it goes to Verlander. He's having an incredible season. Even you mentioned Garrett Cole. He's having another incredible season. But I think if it were up to me right now, I would give it to Charlie Morton.
Yeah. And now for the AL Rookie of the Year, who y'all think's going to take that and why?
I'll let you take that one, Tanner.
This one is really tough. I think right now the best rookie in the American League is Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros, but he was a rather late call-up, and right now it's kind of hard to definitively give him that because he really hasn't been around for that long. But with all that being said, I do think he continues this pace, and I do believe he ends up with the American League Rookie of the Year honor.
Yep. Just based off of what I've actually had the opportunity to see, and actually, Tanner, you were at the baseball game, and when she did this, the guy's got stupid power. He's hitting home runs like the second coming of El Caballo, Houston, honestly. And I really, and another thing too, I don't really see any other rookie from the AL that's been better.
Right.
It seems kind of like I don't mean this to sound bad, but a bit of a weak year. They wouldn't. I mean, Guerrero Jr. hasn't been having. I mean, he won or he did pretty well in the run dirt, but that doesn't really consider that too. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it being anyone else just because of how I don't know, seemingly lackluster the rookies in the AL have been this year. Seems kind of like a one-man race.
One guy you can kind of throw in there. He's having a pretty good year. Michael Chavis from the Red Sox, of course. Yeah. But I do not think that he's on the level of Alvarez right now. Alvarez has outplayed him. So right now I'm giving it to Alvarez. But
absolutely. And then now the AL Manager of the Year. Who y'all think's going to take that in the end, and why?
If I could take this one. I think it's pretty easy for me. They probably won't give it to him because of the fact that they're going to say that his team was too good. But Aaron Boone literally managed the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders for the better part of a month, maybe even a little bit after. And he was able to have – and, you know, managing is one of those things where when it's going well, you don't get the credit because the players get the credit. But when it's going bad, you get the blame because the players get the blame. You know, you can't fire the players. Well, you can, but you can't directly fire them. And they usually don't get the brunt of the blast when things go bad. And no, I think what Aaron Boone was able to do when that team was basically an infirmary, a MASH unit from they were able to have a crazy pace. They were actually, and it's weird to say this, but they were the record that they had in April and May of this year was on par with the record that they had in 2018, in which they were the best team in baseball in that time frame. In 2018, they were able to do that with a depleted starting rotation, a depleted lineup. Just basically, it was like Murphy's Law. Anything that could have gone wrong in terms of injuries went wrong, and then every move that Boone seemed to make in that time frame went right for him. Combined with that, I think he's done a fantastic job just handling the bullpen. I think he's made a lot of moves. I think he's really grown as a manager this year. You're starting to see the transition from, you know, a broadcasting guy that was kind of the big, you know, you saw him get outmanaged by Alex Cora in the American League Division Series last year, and the transition has been like like night and day this year. And as a Yankee fan, it's been really nice to see. But as a baseball fan in general, I think you have to applaud a manager that does something like that.
No doubt. I would definitely applaud Aaron Boone with the influx of injuries, as you mentioned. But I'm going to give it to Rocco Baldelli, manager of the Minnesota Twins. Last year, an incredibly weak division. They ended up in second place, but 78 and 84. They finished 13 games out of first. There was no real competition for it at all. Seemed like a team that made the wild card the year before had taken a step back. Now this year, we talked about him before, leading the AL Central, 2-game lead over the Indians. Both of us had him in the playoffs. The one major acquisition was Nelson Cruz. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to belittle Nelson Cruz at all, but it seems like every single person from top to bottom is playing better. And one or two guys could be coincidence, but when you look at the whole team, it seems like you have to credit the manager from a 13-game deficit in the division to now leading the division with the most home runs, fastest team to 200 home runs hit. They're playing, throughout the season, they've been the surprise team. So I'm giving it to Rocco Baldelli.
So for the baseball fan, or for non-baseball fans, can y'all explain a little how they determine the manager of the year? Because MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, it's kind of who's having the best season. So how, if y'all could explain a little how the manager of the year is determined.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I actually don't know that answer off the top of my head. I know it's a bit more of a, like you said, as opposed to like the hard numbers, just like, oh, this guy hit this many runs, this guy put this many RBI. Like there's a variety of factors because the managing job is so complex. So I think the number one thing would probably be team success. I mean, obviously, in order for you to get manager of the year, you have to have had a successful regular season. They're not going to give manager of the year to a guy that finished fourth in the division or third in the division, didn't make the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. The second thing I think would probably be the strength of the team overall. So if you had a good team and they expected you because they have rankings, preseason rankings, and they're going to say, oh, okay, well this team many games. How over the course of the season, how it shapes out. And then the third thing would probably be, and kind of my biggest reason for giving Aaron Boone manager of the year, would probably be the circumstances behind it. Understanding that, sometimes things do go wrong. How is a manager able to keep a locker room together? How is he able to, dig deep from within his players and able to get the best out of them? I don't know. Maybe you guys were able to find something else, but that's at least what I would say.
There's really no definitive answer. Like you said, it's a lot on the eye test, kind of what the circumstances are a big thing. And some of the big circumstances they look for, unexpected success. Like in past years, I mean, even last year, Brian Snitker of the Braves and Bob Melvin of the A's won it. And they were teams that were kind of on the cusp and took a giant leap forward that other people weren't really expecting. So you have unexpected success, and you have another one is dealing with, like you said, dealing with injury, kind of how dealing with internal things, whether it's injury, whether it could be a plethora of things. I mean, and you can even see how Mitch and I took a different stand. He went with kind of the managing the internal route, and I went with the unexpected success route. They've gone either way in the past. Manager of the year is definitely one of the toughest to call in terms of predicting awards. It's pretty much whatever, like I said, it's the eye test. There's no real hard-hitting numbers, as we've said before.
So now I appreciate that. So now switching to the other league, the National League, who's y'all's MVP coming out of there and why?
Cody Bellinger, in my opinion. And it is weird because in a normal year, it would be, he would be running away with it. Well, I guess you could pick either one of the two guys. It's a 2-horse race, right? It's either Christian Yelich or Cody Bellinger. Mine is personally going to go to Cody Bellinger just because of the fact that I think he's had the better year overall. Now, you could say, and I know, Tanner, you might say most valuable player, and there's absolutely no doubt that in terms of pure value, I think that Christian Yelich has been producing more value to the Brewers as opposed to Cody Bellinger, just because of how stacked the Dodgers are and how the Brewers have seemed to kind of flounder at times. But I would think, looking at these numbers by Cody Bellinger, 330 batting average, 34 bombs, 119 hits, 78 RBIs. The guy's got everything. I mean, he really does, and he's also a pretty good glove out there in the outfield. And in my opinion, it's gotta go to Cody Bellinger. But it's
one of those situations where you look at the committee and you say player A is hitting 334 with 35 home runs, 78 RBIs, 119 hits, and a 434 on base percentage. And player B is hitting 330 with 34 home runs, the same 119 hits, 78 RBIs, and a 429 on base percentage. You kind of just
see who it is.
Equally deserving. But I think Mitch got it right. I do think it's going to be Bellinger. His stretch in the beginning of the year, I mean, where he was just absolutely mashing the baseball. He hit 400 for the longest period to start a season as I can remember. He was in May hitting, or in late April hitting 400. And Yelich, obviously being the winner last year, he kind of lost the element of surprise. So that's why I think it is going to go to Bellinger. But holy cow. You talk about two evenly matched, two incredible baseball players who are equally deserving.
Right.
Yeah. Now as for the pitching, we have the NL Cy Young Award. Who y'all think's going to take that?
Conveniently enough for the Dodgers, he's on the same exact team, Hyun-Jin Ryu. The guy is having one of the greatest pitching years in modern baseball history. He's 11-2, 129 innings pitched, 116 strikeouts. Not a big strikeout guy. I should keep that in mind. He doesn't have the most overpowering stuff, but he locates well with a 1.74 ERA. The Dodgers have found it's crazy that this year you might be able to consider him the ace on the staff as opposed to Clayton Kershaw. I think the Dodgers are going to find, and I know they don't count this in the Cy Young, but I think they're going to find in the postseason that Ryu might shine when Kershaw doesn't. Kershaw, I mean, he's a great, but he certainly has had his warts in the postseason. And in my opinion, it's got to go to Hyun-Jin Ryu. Another thing that I didn't realize, I'm sorry, Tanner, this is a little bit different, but are you looking at the Cy Young predictor at number 2 in Steven Strasburg?
I was not. I'm actually just looking at stats right now, but
this guy is 13-4 with a 3.37 ERA and 107 innings pitched. That's pretty bonkers. I didn't realize that. That's actually really good.
What was the ERA?
3.37.
3.37. But
for nowadays, that's a
right. I mean, this show kind of gets boring when you agree, but I don't think you can look at the stats and make a coherent argument for anyone but Hyun-Jin Ryu. Like you said, sub 2 ERA, 174, 11-2, 129.2 innings pitched. Like you said, the low strikeout numbers, but low strikeouts means less pitches, means you're going farther into games. Mm-hmm. And when the Dodgers have the back end of the bullpen that they do, and that middle relief is kind of the question mark, it is so valuable to have a guy go deep into games. Hyun-Jin Ryu is the clear-cut NL Cy Young Award winner, in my opinion.
Yep. And it's so I was like looking through 129 innings, 25 earned runs. That's sickening.
It's
like there's relievers in 40 innings that are considered good that have that many runs.
I think Jeurys Familia has double that and half the amount of outs recorded.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And now for the NL Rookie of the Year, who y'all think is again come home with that award?
I you know what? I don't watch enough NL baseball, honestly, to be able to make a legit prediction.
I think it's the best rookie in the major leagues, the best rookie in the National League, and one of the best rookies in recent memory to not come from the Dodgers. It's Polar Bear Pete Alonso, no doubt in my mind. 34 home runs. He hit his 34th last night. Team leader in RBIs, team leader in home runs. Where would this team be without Pete Alonso? I don't want to imagine. Or, of course, you still have Jeff McNeil, but without his power numbers, this team is 20 games under 500. They are in 100% sell mode. They are selling everything they have without this man. He has been so good for this team. He's the only reason they're afloat. Of course, DeGrom's starting to figure it out. He had his trouble in the beginning of the year. DeGrom's now figuring it out, and McNeil's hitting for average. But he's the only one with like above 60 RBIs on the team, and he has 77 or something like that. He has just been so good.
Yeah.
You look at other candidates. I mean, Tatis, he's certainly been good, and I think his numbers are good enough to win a National League Rookie of the Year. But half the amount of home runs as Alonso. He does hit more for average, but Alonso's just been so good all year long. It could be just because I'm a Mets fan, but I think giving it to anyone other than Alonso would be an absolute crime.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at his numbers. That with 34 bombs as a rookie, the only one that is more is Aaron Judge, probably, right? I mean, maybe like if you go back to the 50s and stuff, there's like Mickey Mantle probably did that.
Yeah, it was some.
Like,
I think
in modern era, like within the past 5 years, Judge is definitely the only one that has more. Like that's insane. 263, like he's hitting the ball well. He's putting the ball in play. It's not like he's like this like all or nothing. Joey Gallo-esque. Well, I shouldn't say Joey Gallo-esque because Gallo's actually having a really good year in terms of putting contact, in terms of contact. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't even have to look at anyone else. I can look at these numbers and say that's the Rookie of the Year, no doubt.
Yeah. And then finally, the NL Manager of the Year. Who y'all think's going to take that?
Oof. This one is really tough because when you look at the National League, things are kind of going the way people expected it to. There's not really been a surprise team. But if I had to give it to someone, I obviously do. I think I'm giving it to Davey Martinez of the Washington Nationals because they started off just so poorly. I think rock bottom, to bring them to 19-31, they had just been swept by the Mets, a 3-game sweep by the Mets when they had a lead in the 6th inning or later in all 3 games. And the bullpen was an absolute joke. The lineup wasn't producing. The only thing they really had was their starting pitching. And because keeping everyone, because when you looked at this NL East, one of the big storylines was Braves, Philly, the Braves who won it last year, the new and improved Phillies, or the Nationals. That was one of the big storylines coming into this season. And the Nationals just seemed to fall off. Keeping everyone's head level, keeping everyone focused with such a poor start, with such high expectations, is an incredible job by Dave Martinez, and that's why I'm giving it to him.
Mitch?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the only thing that is keeping that from happening would be if the Dodgers just continue their historic pace and win. And right now they're on pace for something like 110 games or something. It's like literally ridiculous. They've taken advantage of what's, in my opinion, a bit of a weaker National League this year and just kind of beat up on every team, all the teams that they should. Like, they were expected to be a powerhouse this year, but this is just, even for them, and the Dodgers are such a historic franchise, but it's almost an unprecedented level of regular season success. So I think if they do end up winning 110 games, which is no easy task, mind you, but certainly achievable with how good the team is, barring the Dodgers doing something like that, I think it's got to go to Dave Martinez and the Nationals just because of the turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reason for Dave Martinez. It's also kind of a reason for, I think, for Cody Bellinger, because I mean, obviously, 2 straight seasons in the World Series, they've been an incredible baseball team. But both of those seasons, or last season specifically, you never really felt like they had a chance at winning that World Series. But now they don't just have Cody Bellinger, they have Cody Bellinger, the one hitting over 330 with 35 bombs, and they're just They are top to bottom, dangerous. So if they do make history, I can definitely see it going to Dave Roberts. But
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any other end of the year rewards y'all want to talk about?
Those are the big ones. I mean, we could analyze, Gold Glove and stuff, but
you have the comeback player of the year. I don't know. That's one of those where it's kind of you have to really do your research for that one.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'm not quite thinking of anyone, but
Yeah, I think we hit the big ones. So anything else y'all want to add?
who do you guys think who's going to be in the World Series?
oof. I think the Dodgers will cruise in the National League. You mentioned you have some good teams, you definitely do, but I mean the Dodgers are just so good. The American League, as it always has been, it's the battle of the Giants. Can the Yankees get over the hump? I think they can. Call me lazy, but I do have chalk having the Dodgers and Yankees in the World Series, and that would be an incredible series. Not only are they the two best teams in baseball, you have the LA New York kind of narrative. You have one team predicated on hitting a lot of home runs and surviving until your bullpen comes in. Then you have another team predicated, as you said, the anti-Yankees, the team with a top three starters of Clayton Kershaw, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Walker Buehler, who are about as good as it gets when it comes to top three. So I think it would be an incredible series. That's what I got.
Well, I might have to go even more chalk than you. I'm gonna go. I just don't see anything else aside from Astros Dodgers. Call it boring, like you said. Call it whatever. We've seen it before. I think it's gonna happen again.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone in the American League getting through in a 7-game series having to face Verlander and Cole twice. That's just we know as the old adage goes, good pitching shuts down good hitting any day of the week. And the Yankees, yeah, they have all that firepower. The Twins, yeah, they have all that firepower. Let's say the Red Sox find a way to, get the gears running. They find a way into the division or the championship series. Good pitching shuts down good hitting, with the exception of last year, of course, for the Red Sox when everything went right for them. But that's a different story. This year, I think, yeah, it's got to be Astros will take it and the Dodgers will national.
Yeah. I think Dodgers are kind of a given playing the way they are. And I think also it's between the Astros or the Yankees as well. But who knows? It could change in a month, but we'll see.
That's why they play the game. Crazier things.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, though, whether it's the Astros, the Yankees, or Red Sox or Twins, whoever sneaks in there, I actually do think this is the year the Dodgers get over the hump. They're just too good, top to bottom. They are just too good to not.
Yeah.
Third
anything
time,
else?
as they say.
Sure is.
Anything else y'all want to add?
I'm more, looking more, in the immediate future. Pay attention to the deadline. It's been kind of dead so far, but this is the first year where they don't have the waiver deadline, which comes a week or couple weeks after. So whatever your team is after July 31st, that's going to be your team going into playoffs. So expect, especially because no big moves have been made and no moves will be made after July 31st. Expect some good movement up to July 31st. We should see an increase in moves here soon, and it should be a fun one. Really should.
Yeah. Getting into the dog days of summer here, the weather's going to start cooling down a little bit. We got one more month of it, and then we're going to get that crisp autumn breeze. Going to be. It's so weird that we're already there almost. It feels like baseball season and summer in general has just kind of flown by. But yeah, we're almost there. I can't wait to make myself nervous in class. Just thinking about the games later, thinking about the pitching matchups, and just over analyzing everything with you guys. And I'm excited for it. I love it. There's nothing quite like it.
When the outfielders start wearing face masks and the umpires start wearing gloves, and the pitchers start running on the bases with jackets, it's it's good baseball.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's all we have today, folks. This is the third episode of the Sports Talk Eye Show. Be sure to tune in next time and have a good one.